Hi everyone, Ariana here from Well-Fed Photography, and we are chatting today with Linda from Pilates with Linda. And I first met Linda on a Zoom coffee chat at the beginning of the original lockdown. It was one that Sandy Connolly, if you haven't run into her, Sandy Connolly Doula on Instagram, she was holding, and I just felt connected to Linda straight away, and I've been following her Instagram ever since. So I'm delighted to have her on. And then Linda, would you like to tell us a bit more about you and the services that you offer?
Yeah, sure. So thank you, Mariana. Yeah, exactly. I remember that day so well that we were on our coffee morning, our virtual coffee morning, because of this situation. So I started my business about 2 years ago, Pilates, with Linda, and obviously it was a studio scenario. So I was in corporate for about 15 years and had two kids in quick succession, and then kind of realized that yeah, my big global corporate position was no longer kind of tying in with my family situation. So I looked at kind of different avenues on what I could do, and basically just retrained. I became a PT, and then I realized I'm in my 40s as a PT, so maybe I should diversify into something a little less stressful. So I trained as a Pilates teacher or instructor or whatever you like to call it. So I started the Pilates business about 2 years ago, and over 2 years ago now. And unfortunately, I taught my last class last March in the studio, and I went, I think pivot has been drained to death, that word. I went online literally a week later, and I offered my services on Zoom. Hadn't got a clue what I was doing, but just like hit the button and had a lot of my clients and new clients come on board. So yeah, I've been doing that. I took August off, and that was it. Like, I've been teaching online since. So it's been really, yeah, it's been really big change, but really exciting as well.
That's amazing. And for just for anyone who maybe is less familiar with Pilates and what it is, how it got started, do you want to just give a brief
Yeah,
introduction or
sure.
explanation?
So basically, it was kind of started by a guy who was actually, he called it conchology. So basically, his name was Joseph Pilates. So it evolved into Pilates. I think more after his death than anything else. He wanted to just fix people. That was his aim in life. So he was a guy from Germany. He was quite a sick child, and he developed this at 14 by himself. He developed all the moves, and he went on to be, I think, I don't know what rank he had in the army during I think it was the First World War. I could be this, no, it was the First World War. But none of his kind of team or platoon or whatever that's called died of natural causes, and so many of them died of natural causes, but he had them doing Pilates every day while they were fighting a war, if you know what I mean. Yeah. So he went on to live in New York, and he basically had a studio in New York, and he certified two people to be Pilates instructors, and they went on and they trained dancers and like amazing people, and he focused in on just helping everyone. And apparently he wasn't a great money collector, or he would do it pro bono, and the people that he taught were making so much money out of it. And he apparently he died quite a not impoverished man, but he didn't have much money when he died, and people have gone on to make so much money out of him. And it's very relatively new, and he kind of picked ideas from different types of exercise, yoga, calisthenics, just all different areas, body strengthening, body conditioning. I think a lot of yogis might have a few issues with him because yeah, he procured some of the movements. But if you look at the gym, a lot of the movements, like a plank and everything like that, he just changed it around and it focused in on, I know the plank focuses in on the core, but we have a Pilates plank, we have a Pilates squat, and it was just different, working like your smaller muscles as well as your bigger muscles, that way. That was kind of his thing. But really, like, he's got, if you kind of get a chance to read up on his story, amazing story, like, and the fact that the person who taught me Pilates, it's the generation is so small. I think I'm fifth generation Pilates or something like that is what, you know, it's kind of, it's still so relatively new. Yeah. So
Wow.
yeah.
I did actually learn a little bit about him towards the end of last year, just because I saw it on Instagram. Someone was talking about Joseph Pilates and his contribution to actually bringing this about. So that's amazing. And I want to ask you about your own unique expression, because obviously we all have something within us that's unique, a unique light that we shine. So for you and for your clients, like, what do you feel like that specialness is that you bring to the table when it comes to teaching people or supporting people through their health and fitness journeys?
Yeah, I suppose for me, the biggest thing that I wanted to do was like create a space where people felt comfortable. If you know, if I ever walked into a gym, say, and before I was a personal trainer, I would have been afraid to go to the weights area. You know, you have this intimidation, this, you know, do I belong here? And that was the initial reason for me getting into that section. And then it was a case of moving on from that and just, you know, whatever shape, size you are, whoever you are, it doesn't matter. Come down and we'll see what we can do for you, you know, that way. Because basically people can be so intimidated. The amount of times, like, there's so much stats on this, that I'll lose a stone and then I'll go an exercise, or you know, or I have to get healthy before I, you know, start my fitness journey or start my wellness journey. I probably would prefer to use. And it's like, no, just start now. Just, you know, it doesn't have to be huge change. And that's one thing, is you know, it's not about, sometimes I hate the word goals, like, you know what I mean? Sometimes it's more about creating habits rather than, you know, working towards goals. Because what we should do, it should be maintainable and sustainable throughout our everyday, rather than going, okay, now I'm going to give everything up for 2 months and then I'm going to eat myself silly in 2 months time. Like, you know, you know, it's just having a balance more than anything else. And I suppose for me, it's bringing my clients along and within their ability as well. Like, the worst thing you can feel is that you don't know what to do in a class. You know, I mean, every week we will go back to the basics at the start of a class and get our setup right and get everything. Where I have attended classes, and because I'm a teacher, I know what my setup is. But if you were a beginner going to that class, like, what do you mean by your breath? What, you know, it's like they can go straight into it and skip over a whole heap of things. And you know, it's that was another kind of thing, was that, you know, you'd go in and it would say, oh, beginners class, and it wasn't a beginners class. And you would have, you know, 4 or 5 people just not come back, because these would be other classes that I went to. They just wouldn't come back because they just felt intimidated. So it's just about bringing your clients along with you on the journey, because to be honest, like, the journey isn't about you, you know, it's about your clients, and it's about what you can do for them, really.
Yeah, and I think that that's one of the things that I felt really drawn to about you is, number one, you come across as so relatable. Like, it's not like you're putting on a show for anyone. It's not like you're putting on this false facade to look
Yeah.
great on Instagram or to see how tiny your belly can be or whatever. And we'll talk about this a little bit as we go, but you're just so open and honest. And
Yeah.
I see you drop little like tidbits of wisdom about small changes you can make.
Yeah.
And I think that that's so powerful, especially for people who might be, like you said, intimidated about getting
Yeah.
started. If they know they can just take those small steps to work their way up to it, you know, to get
Yeah.
that bit of comfort and a bit of confidence in themselves, then they can build off of that. That is the foundation to build off of, that belief.
Oh,
So
100%, 100%. And that's like, it's so important. And I mean, I'm a marketeer, and that's my background, is marketing. And I was in corporate marketing for 15 years. And to be a marketeer and not have a social media account until I was 40, like, that's, yeah. I wasn't on social media because I really was quite, you know, I'm kind of meandering along through life. And you know, I probably had a bit of fear that I was missing out on something if I was like, you know, what do you mean I wasn't invited to that party? Um, but it wasn't until I started the business that I created a social media account, just purely for an advertising purpose. But actually, I probably was completely wrong. because I love social media. I think the connection, like, you can make through social media is huge. Like, I myself have a coach who I got, because I think everybody needs to be accountable sometimes. And I met her through Instagram, and she's in England. And it was just, I developed a really good relationship with her through social media. I just think it's an amazing place to connect with people you haven't seen for 20 years. And it's like, oh my God, and then they'll drop you a text and everything. So I just have found the last couple of years on social media brilliant. And it's a great way to sell your business, but it's also a great way to be yourself and be unique. And you can see the difference between, I mean, I'm going to be 42 in April, so I'm like not doing a squat and sticking my ass in the camera, I mean, I won't be getting the likes for that, you know what I mean? There's so many like boys and girls who are like, yeah, this is what you do, and I'm like, yeah, go for it. If you can make some money out of that, I'm all for it. Like, no judgment here, but that's, unfortunately, I'm not going to be making my money out of that. But it's nice, it's nice for a vent as well. If you're having a really crappy day, it's kind of nice to go, I hope everybody's feeling okay. And just, it's not about, it's about kind of realizing, like, everybody's going through their own stuff, but if you can help one person through it, sometimes you get a couple of little messages and it's like, oh, I'm kind of having a shitty day too, it's okay, like, so that kind of, if you're kind of helping somebody, it's nice.
Yeah, definitely. And that's I think that's the beautiful part that I love about your Instagram page, and why it's so fun to follow along, is like you do have the Pilates there, but you mix in a bit of like family life and a bit of humor. And
Yeah.
like, I love the video that you did. It's like every Irish mammy in the 90s, and like, have you done your homework? Then at the weekend, it's like, have you done your homework? Ma, do my homework.
I'm like, because, the thing about it is, you have to kind of go with the flow to a certain extent. And I'd say there are young ones looking at me going, who does this one think she is? And I know that, like, I follow this PT, like James Smith. He's an English guy in Australia, and he's really kind of tell it like it is, and he's quite funny. But he did a kind of an IGTV the other day about, all these fitness people doing reels, and I'm like, well, that's all right for you, buddy, with your 1 million followers. Like, you don't have to do a reel. He's like, oh, following along with the algorithm. I'm like, yeah, I am following on with the algorithm.
Yes, absolutely.
Well,
and before we go on, like, I do want to talk about some other components, but before we go off of, Instagram and social media and those personal connections, I did want to praise you as well for showing postpartum bodies and breastfeeding in a really truthful light. So why do you feel like it's important for postpartum bodies and breastfeeding to have a place in the Instagram spotlight or in the social media spotlight?
Well, it's so important. And I think that's a huge regret in my life, that I wasn't on social media when I was feeding or when I had my kids, because I think I probably would have a lot more photographs of that experience. I don't have a lot of breastfeeding photos. And I think I really probably was postpartum at that, experienced a little bit of postpartum depression at that stage, and not happy with my body, and don't take that photograph, don't. And now I'm like, gosh, that was such an amazing time. I wish I had have captured everything. I would be like, yeah, share that, share this. And I have one particular photograph that I've probably shared a couple of times. And it was the day after my dad got married. He remarried there in 2016. And my son was 6 weeks, I think 7 weeks maybe, and my daughter was 1. And it was the weekend, so it was like the 2 days after maybe he got married, and I was just drained. It's so tired because a late night and whatever. And I was feeding, and she was in the background on her iPad at 1, because I was just like, yeah, go just watch Blippi or watch whatever, just kind of Peppa Pig in the background. But I just, going back to that it's such a hard part of your life. It's such an amazing thing to do for your kids. Like, I really, I fed till I think 9 or 10 months on both of them, and probably would have fed longer on my son, but I kind of felt that I would give them both equal time. And I just remember people going, oh, you're so lucky. You're so lucky you adapted to it so well. You're so lucky that you can feed. You're so lucky. And I'm just like, lucky. Check me out for the first 6 weeks of breastfeeding. Like there's, I don't think anybody goes, oh my God, my child latched on. It was amazing, and there's, I mean, everybody, oh God, I'd like, Aria, maybe you can dispute this, but everybody, I think, gets chapped nipples. Everybody bleeds from their nipples. Everybody has, oh God, which side did I feed from last? And like I fed on demand as well. So I was like, there was no military precision with me. And for me, sleep was king. So I co-slept as well. I fed my kid to sleep. I was like, and yeah, I'm like, what? Yeah. And with my first Lucy, I thought like that kid wouldn't take a bottle. We went straight from the breast to a cup, literally. And I was like, oh my God. And I kind of felt my body is not my own. But I was so surprised. I thought they're going to scream the house down. I went to my mum's for a night and left my husband with her. And she never looked for the breast again. And she was just a Klingon. Like she wanted her food, she wanted comfort, she wanted everything. Both of them never had soothers or anything like that. And I just couldn't believe that. I was devastated. I was like, what? She's switched off? Oh my God. But yeah, and I just like, it really surprised me because I hear so many stories from I can't stop, not that I can't stop, or if people feel that it's time for them, that maybe it's not time for their child as well.
Right.
But I was just like, oh my God, she doesn't want me. What's going on?
Yeah, and it's so important to share our stories, I think, so that people understand the different variabilities that are experienced. So like whether it's having difficulties at the beginning and like needing to use lanolin or silver nipples or whatever it is to be able to recover from that early period, to weaning and some of the emotional stuff that can come up whenever it comes to weaning. Like even some people that continue to breastfeed, but the introduction of food can be emotional for them. So yes, there's so much people experience. So it's great to hear your story and also to know that you're sharing those bits and pieces out for other people to hear as well that maybe don't have any knowledge or direct experience with breastfeeding or someone that has breastfed.
And I think I hear, obviously with say Sandy's group, and you hear so many different stories and so many different experiences, and they're amazing. But like, I think I was first to breastfeed in my family, and it's bizarre the lack of support that you get if you're not from a breastfeeding family. I was like, just stop. You give yourself a break, or just like you really have to dig deep. And that's what I would say to people if you're not getting that support, to groups or from friends who have breastfed. Any friends that have breastfed will totally, chat to you about it and their experiences and everything like that. But if somebody hasn't gone through that, like, no judgment on anybody at all, but they just haven't been in your situation and they don't know how you feel, and it's a case of and not understanding what you want to do for your baby and the start you want to give them in life, and it's kind of, sometimes it's reflective that, maybe, because they didn't breastfeed, maybe they feel a bit inadequate. And that's, nobody's judging anybody, that way. It's just kind of, people choose their own way in life and choose what they want to do. And it's like, the biggest thing I would say would be just stick at it, because after that initial, it might be 2 months, I'm sorry to say, but it is, oh my God, to pick up and not have to prep a bottle, or, it's amazing. I mean, I've a friend now who lives on my street, and her child is going to be 2 in June, and she's still feeding, and she's so happy, like, I think she's doing nighttime feeds or whatever, and it's like, it suits her so well. And I think my head now, I would probably feed longer, but my head back then, I went from probably like I went from like treatment to have kids into pregnancy, into breastfeeding, into pregnancy, into breastfeeding. And I just kind of thought my body was not my own. And I just wanted to get my body back at that stage for me rather than anything else. That was my aim. But yeah, I'm like, you know, if you want to feed your kid till they're 4 or 5, that's your decision, you know, that's, yeah.
Definitely. And that's one of the things with our book of breastfeeding stories that we're doing. We're hoping that it will be of assistance to people who don't have that direct experience. As in, like, if you have a family member who doesn't know how to support you, they can reach for that book and they can understand some of the emotion that's tied to it. They can understand some of that desire to continue feeding even through struggles, and can just see kind of what's normal behavior as well for like infants when they're feeding, breastfeeding, and all of that. So thank you for sharing that with us. And I suppose the part that we didn't really talk about is postpartum bodies and sharing that on Instagram. Yeah. Some people would call you really brave to do that. How do you feel about showing that?
Like, I mean, I work hard like every week to, you know, my food is balanced enough. I mean, I'm not hugely rigid. I would watch my sugar intake, obviously outside of consumption of wine, but no, but I would kind of watch what I eat, you know. I mean, I would have a fairly balanced diet. I work out, I walk, but you know, I'm never losing my C-section body. That is just not. That is, you know, will tighten up. I will, but that tummy is there forever. And I mean, I've spoken plenty about it. Like that tummy gave me my 2 kids, you know. So it's like you got to be proud of it as well, you know. It's a double. You see it there, and you're like, oh, but I mean, I'm happy that I got the opportunity to have my children taken out of that stomach.
Yes.
But yeah, and I think, I mean, I'm all about, like, there's so much in the you've probably seen it as well, Ariana, about the body positivity and this, that, and the other. And like some of it is kind of, it's so like funny as well, because you see like, you know, a model and they're like size 6 to 8 and they're trying to roll body fat, get it real versus Instagram, and you're like, holy shit, like what do you know, I mean, and there's so many people to follow on Instagram and kind of get an understanding that, you know, like about like fat shaming versus body positivity. And there's so like I've learned so much from Instagram as well. There's some really great accounts like Louise McSherry's account, and she's just, you know, she just says it like it is. She's like, I've tried so many diets and I've put so much weight on, and she's just living her life now. And, you know, accepting your own body, but accepting your own body isn't body positivity, you know, that way. It's kind of, it's all related to it. But I mean, to say you're body positive when you have an amazing body, like, yeah, I'd be body positive too. You know, body positive isn't rolling your little bit of fat and going, hey, you know. But I think it's just showing people that you don't have to be perfect to accept yourself. You know, you just have to, and to be honest with you, it's age only gives that to you as well. You know, that's, you know, it's maturity gives that to you as well, because I remember when I was in my 20s, we were going out one night and I was in at the car with a friend, and her mum, who was probably in her 50s at that time, and she said to us that you'll never be as young as you are today, and enjoy that. And it was there, you'll never feel as beautiful as you are today. It was something kind of, but it kind of always stuck with me. It was like, it doesn't matter, you know what I mean? It doesn't. And that's probably taken a long time for me. I mean, I did Weight Watchers, I did Slimming World, I did all, you know, I did all of that. And it's just, it doesn't get you anywhere, you know, that way, except just, you know, being miserable. And, you know, but then on the other side of the coin, there's so many people out there, I don't count calories, I do. But like, yeah, you run 20 miles a day, of course you don't count calories, you know. You have to have the happy medium of like helping people as well, you know. And I think that I think there's not enough for women after they have children about their bodies. You know, we go to a doctor at 6 weeks, and or your consultant or whoever, and like nobody mentions diastasis recti. Nobody. Like, you know, and no, like nobody tells you about day 3, hormones at day 3. No, like I you know, I sometimes, like, your family don't even tell you about that. I think everybody should be sat down and told, this is what is going to happen. Like, this just this big secret about, oh yeah, you know. And I think that's evolving, and I think people, there's so many advocates out there talking about this and really saying, you know, it isn't all happy clappy in the garden when, you know. And even the whole thing of when you have your first child, your first pregnancy, you are the center of the universe. Like, you are, it is about you. And this child comes out of you, and then it's like, hey, here's your one. It's like, she carried the child, you know. Do you know, it's like you become like the feature character in the movie, you know, or you become like the, you know, the extra in the shift changes kind of, or something. It's, you know, it's very hard to deal with. And I think that as women, if it was happening to men, it'd be all sorted, I'd say. But I just think that there's so much not addressed for women. And yeah, like, to just different things. And I mean, different things that, you know, even as a first time mum, that you do get a little less respect from healthcare professionals as you from, you know, compared to a second time mum, or compared to, you know. And even saying, you know, I had an emergency section on my first, and I was scared, like, I was so scared of labor on my second. And my consultant was like, you need to deliver this baby. You have a 1-year-old at home. You will not be able to pick the child up, blah, 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 blah. And we came to a happy medium. But I was just like, no, I'm not delivering naturally. And I was I'm 100% happy with my decision now. I never felt pressure. But I think as a 20-something-year-old, I would have maybe been let myself told what to do, or to, you know. And I think that there's so, what I'm really trying to say is that, you know, we're told what to do in those situations rather than make the decisions for ourselves. And
or be encouraged and empowered to make those decisions for ourselves too, or educated around our options.
Yeah. And I remember sitting, and I remember the consultant saying to me, if you go over, I will section you. And I said, okay. And I held that baby in. No, but I remember we scheduled the section for I think 2 days after my due date, and he was happy to do it. Like, he was like, yeah, she knows what she wants, and that was what I wanted. I remember hearing a story of a friend of mine, and her a cousin of hers had 2 babies by C-section, and this person's sisters saying she had never had a baby because she never delivered naturally. And I just thought to myself, that is the saddest thing I've ever heard, you know. And she had a 3rd child, and she delivered naturally, to say to her family that she had a baby. I just thought that was so sad. Like, that, you know, yeah.
Wow. I've actually heard a story about another photographer who was a birth photographer, but who refused to take photographs at cesarean. So this is in America, where they actually can do that, or in Ireland we don't have the option. But
I'm like, what?
she refused to take photographs during cesareans for the very same reason, as she didn't consider it birth. But I, as a mother who has also gone through an unplanned and a semi-planned cesarean, as in it was on the books in case it needed to happen, I can certainly agree with you and say that it is birth. And I think because of that narrative around it not being birth, I had a really difficult time with my first, in the fact that it was unplanned. I had the cesarean, and then I had this feeling that my body had failed me and failed him, and I had to process that and come to realize that I did have birth. So you know, I did birth him, and it was with help, but a lot of births, most births, unless they're a free birth, are with some form of assistance,
Yeah.
whether that's just a midwife being there or, you know, ventouse or whatever it is. So
Yeah.
I love that you've brought that to light.
But I think what's really interesting as well is that we don't get told about what could happen. You know, you have a plan, you know, whether it's you have a plan to have a natural birth in hospital, or you have a plan to have, you know, a home birth or whatever, you know, we don't generally get told. And I mean, I know I know we can find out ourselves and everything, but there should be some sort of, like, you know, in the birthing classes, there should be like literally, you know, you can be as I was, be in pre-labor for 53 hours and nothing happens. Yeah. And then be told that they'd be moved to the delivery suite, and I was like, Donna, that's it, give me, they gave me an epidural, I remember. And then like meconium got into the system, so that's why I had to deliver via C-section. So it's just the preparation, like we're not told this might not go the way you're planned. It's planned, really, you know. And I mean, I know that, you know, there's so many people that will educate themselves. I had been like through, you know, we conceived both the kids naturally, but we've been through kind of a 4 or 5 year journey, and that's another story about you know, IVF and fertility drugs and everything like that. But I was done reading up on. I just want somebody to tell me what is going to happen. I just, you know, and I just kind of found it, wow, like that, you know, they sent me home on a Saturday night, and I went back in on the Sunday morning, and I, like, it was 28 hours later before I had my C-section. And I remember that when going in, and the midwife saying, we're going to bring you down now, this is on the Sunday morning, we're going to bring you down to the delivery suite now. And the consultant on call going, no, let her establish herself in unit 3, the unit of hell. In Hollis Street. But
Oh,
yeah, I just think that there's just, the information is only now beginning to seep out, because we do have doulas there, you know, and we do have people who have experienced and kind of feel like this shouldn't be a secret. This, you know, it was kind of, oh, don't tell them about, you know, but the birth, or don't, you know, people should know what they're going to be faced with. People should know that, you know, that if you deliver naturally, that you know, your bowel functions might not be okay, your bladder function might not be okay, you know, for forever. Like, and you know, it's just not talked about, and it should be talked about more, for sure.
definitely. And let's actually talk about words like health and well-being. What do those words mean
Yeah.
for you as someone who assists people on their wellness journey, or their, you know, their health journey, like you'd say?
Like, yeah, for me, like it's if it, for me, for health and well-being, like it's finding a maintainable balance. You know, it's finding that, I mean, don't get me wrong, I mean, we can all have a couple of weeks where we kind of go off the scales, and we just, and you do have to rein it back in by going into a calorie deficit. Like, it, for me, that's my personal experience, that's essentially what I would have to do. But what, for me, what I would say to people for health and well-being, it's about getting good natural food into you, like, you know. And I think one thing that's really come out of this pandemic is people are cooking from scratch. People are, and that's amazing. Like, that's, it's such a positive, because even, you know, to go from having maybe 3 or 4 processed meals a week to having maybe one, that's a 75% improvement. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's super. You don't have to change everything about your lifestyle. You just, you know, and like, as far as food is concerned, rest as well. Like, sleep is so important. Oh my God. Like, I am a sleep monster, and my child is a sleep monster. My, oh my, like, my 6-year-old woke up a 9:45 this morning. Like, 9:45. she's exactly like me, absolutely loves bed. And she had a nice weekend, so I was kind of like, yeah, you can stay there, that's fine. But I set my alarm for 6:45 this morning, and I was like, do you know what? I have had the best night's sleep. I'm going to lie here for another hour, and that's fine, if I can, because my 4-year-old he didn't come into the bed last night and he didn't kick the back off me. And I was like, this is amazing. Because he still does that. But I just, sleep is the untold power of weight maintenance, of a healthy mind, of, and I just, I just feel so, I'd say so sorry for, but I just feel so sad for people who have insomnia, or who have, because people genuinely have insomnia for no apparent reason. Like, for, literally, I know maybe it's anxiety and maybe you can talk, but there's a couple of, like, say, people on Instagram, like, who would have the blue ticks, and you'd see that they'd have insomnia and maybe suggest, and like they've had every single suggestion that's known to man, and I mean, my biggest thing for me, I can't have a cup of caffeine after 12 o'clock in the day. Like, I know that sounds ridiculous, but I honestly, I get 2 cups of coffee in before 12, because if I had a cup of coffee after 12, I would not sleep that
Yeah.
night. It's just, and it's knowing your body and knowing what works for you, and maybe kind of rethinking that cup of coffee about 4 in the afternoon or something like that, if you're
Yeah.
not sleeping. And then obviously, like, your relaxation. I mean, that's so important, your self-care and everything. And I think self-care is kind of another word that is kind of being overused. But it's so important. And like, at the moment, like, being stuck in, I think there's what are people saying about the journey, that there's so many people on this journey, and they're going, like, we're on the same journey, but we're not on the same ship or boat or whatever. I know there's a few kind of things being bandied about, but like, the people who are living by themselves, and the people that are living in families. And I mean, I remember first lockdown, I walked every day just to get an hour away from my family. That I wanted so much in life, and that I prayed for and lived for so much. And I was like, get away from me. But I just think, yeah, like, and whether that's a walk or just reading a book or something like that, it's so important. And actually, that's what I've a challenge. It's my birthday in April, and I'm already thinking ahead of another challenge, and it's going to be like a self-care challenge for a few days, kind of thinking about different things that you can do for yourself. Yeah. So, and then your movement, like how you maintain your fitness, and that's the really big thing, is because your movement, that will help your mental health, that will help your eating, that will help your sleeping. Like, if you're sitting for 8 or 9 hours a day, like, your body just gets into this kind of lazy mode, I would say. It's nothing to do with your mind, it's nothing to do, and that's, so many of us are now. So many of us are sitting at computers and sitting, you know, whether they're homeschooling or reading books with kids or working on businesses or X, Y, and Z. And it's just about, like, if you need to, like, put music on for 15 minutes and dance around your kitchen. Like, just burn some energy, because if you do that, you will get more energy out of it, and that's really, like, for me, I try and walk every day. I try, and I kind of got obsessed with steps. So I've moved away from that. I'm kind of, if I don't get my 10,000 steps, it will crumble or something, kind of. But we get so obsessive over stupid things. It's like, oh, so I was kind of like, well, maybe if I hit around 70 a week, that would be better than focusing in on the days that I didn't hit, and feeling like a failure the days that I didn't hit it. And I work out 3 times a week. That's it. I'll practice my Pilates, like, try and get every day, and I teach twice a week. But I work out 3 times a week. That's enough. for anybody, you know. I mean, I see so much excessive working out on social media and everything like that. If that's your bag, that's fine. But no, I mean, we have lives to lead.
No, I love your approach to that too, because I think that sometimes we can be, just like what you said earlier about even the birth stuff, we can be disconnected from really checking in with our bodies and what feels good to us. And I remember last year I was juggling so much between trying to put the book together and interview everyone. I poured so many hours into interviewing people for the book. And then, you know, you've got the rest of your life. And I had a 1 day a week with my personal trainer. And even at that, I had to let that go because it was too much at that particular stage of my life and with what I had going on. So I was better off in that particular time in my life to go for a walk and to get fresh air outside. And I think sometimes we need to understand that it's not laziness if we do put something down and pick it back up. Sometimes it is for the best interest of ourselves, and then to pick it back up when we can, when we have the energy, when we feel aligned with it. So I don't know what your thoughts are around that, but that's what I had to do with me.
I think that's like, I mean, even last week I was like, I put a poll up and I was like, who feels very lazy on their rest days? I mean, I have 2 rest days a week and I feel so lazy on them, but I'm like, this is how your body, you know, like recuperates. It's how it doesn't get fatigued, it doesn't get overworked. And it's biggest thing I think as females, the biggest thing we do is just be so hard on ourselves and have that voice in the back of our head saying that we're just not good enough or we're just not. And I think it's wonderful that you recognize, you said, you know what, I need to just let go of that day, because for me, and that's the whole health and well-being and the whole package, like for you, it was much better for you to go for a walk and to get out in nature for your body and your mind, rather than, you know, focusing in on the PT session, and allowing yourself to do that. And that's the biggest thing. And not forgiving yourself for doing it. I don't mean it like that, but it's like giving yourself a break for doing it or something, you know, because
Yeah.
we just like, we're our harshest critics, aren't we?
Yes,
Like we
definitely.
really are. Like we're just, and we just need to look after us at the end of the day, because I mean, at the end, like we're, you know, we're both mums, and if we're not 100%, like, you know, we you have to maintain a household, and you know, it's like, oh, and I'm like thinking, I'm in this room, this is my office, and I haven't been here for a year because my husband's been at home using it. So it's like, I was like, I'm going into the office, and he's downstairs at the kitchen table, and I'm like, oh, this is amazing. But yeah, but it's how we have to adapt, and it's how we have to move on as well. But yeah, it's giving ourselves a break and just going, you know what, today I don't want to do anything. And it's like, yeah, fine, you know, don't do it. But that's it's something that I have to work on as well. Like, and you have to actually have the conversation with yourself to allow you to do that, you know. And like, and one of the other biggest things for me is like winding down, like, and just having that 5 minutes, I suppose, is like the kind of self-care or whatever. But you need to just maybe take a breath and have a bit of meditation or something like that, even for 5 minutes a day, just to switch off. And obviously your hydration,
Yes.
the water intake. Oh yeah, if I try and hit 3 liters a day every day, and if I think you just feel so much better if you do that, like digestively and everything like that. So yeah, I think that like a water, a walk, and a workout, that's my kind of
I love that. I'm there with you. Like we're so blessed. My husband's home with us again this lockdown. And we intentionally structured our day so that we could each fit in self-care, as in like an hour to ourselves to do what we wanted, whether that's going for a walk, reading a book, just like having a little lie-in or whatever it is. But we each have that time. We
yeah.
have time together as a family, and we have time to work, and it's been the best mix. But the thing is, we learned from the first one,
Yeah.
so that we could put that in place for our well-being. Whereas, like, you know, we wouldn't have known that if we hadn't been through the first one and kind of what that entailed.
But it's having like it's the communication as well. Do you know what I mean? And it's setting out what you expect and what he expects as well. Because I've had so many, but I say so many, like 2 or 3 people say to me that like their husbands have, you know, they're at home, but they literally shut the door at 8:30 and they open it again at 5:30. That doesn't happen in my house. No, 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 no. Like, I mean, and I just think that sometimes in life, and I don't mean this to sound condescending to anybody that this is happening to, but you accept what you get, you know, and it's like if you tolerate that, that will happen. You know, that's, yeah, you know, you have to set your boundaries as well. And I mean, the office, like my office space went because I don't pay the mortgage. So our bills don't get paid if he doesn't have a quiet space. So that's, you know, that's the rationale behind that. That's why I'm at the kitchen table as well, you know, and but it is coming to those agreements. And it's lovely to hear that you guys have the hour each. Like, it's so important. And that's what, I mean, that's what my husband was like, I'm going for a walk, or I'm going to read my book upstairs or whatever. And it's just keeping the kids downstairs so they don't run up to him or to me as well, you know.
Yes, I've the beginning of this year was a huge time for me to look at, and I live a very amazing life, which has been made through intentionality and choosing to live that beautiful life. But
Yeah.
I also had to take a really clear, honest look at the things that I was tolerating at the beginning of this year, kind of looking back over life. What are things that I've tolerated? You know, even if it's maybe speaking unkind to myself or whatever it may be, I had to take stock of that so that I could start to shift that as well and change that. And it has made a huge difference. There was certainly a time where it was challenging to go through the recognition of those things, but it's been really powerful. So I appreciate what you said there about what are you tolerating? Like, what are some things that you are tolerating? What could you maybe choose differently? What do you want your life to look like?
Yeah.
And have those conversations. So important.
And it's the simple things like you know, I had every intentionality of going back to school this morning, and I ended up doing a radio interview at 11:30. So I kind of panicked when I was meant to be doing school with my child. I panicked about the radio interview for an hour, but we had a chat when after Christmas, and I had been doing the majority of the homeschooling previously, and I just said, you know what, I'm not doing, we have our Zoom call on Friday, even though the Moonshore puts up exercises on Friday. I don't do homeschool on Friday because I'm like, she's done an hour, she's 6, she's in senior infants, she's done an hour with the class. And my husband does Wednesdays and I do the other 3 days, but I was like, I cannot. And on Wednesday, I just feel like I have a day off.
Yes.
Like, I mean, it's an hour. I don't get, you know, I mean, there's so many people who have kids sitting on laptops for the whole day. And like, my experience has been, you know, quite nice of, you know, lockdown hasn't, it's been, I've had a couple of hard weeks since Christmas, but overall, the year has been quite nice to kind of rebuild as a family. Like, we've, you know, I think you have to just dig deep and get on with it as well. You know, there is an element of that there, but yeah, I just was like, you know, Wednesdays I'm not doing. And he was like, yeah, that's fine, you know. But I think that sometimes we just don't say it. And then we, you know, bitch and moan, or we're pissed off, and you're like, if you had had a conversation about it, then it could have been resolved as well, you know. And it's you know, it's the simplest of things. But that was my thing, that I was just, I'll do 3 days and that will be fine.
Yes. And it's like you said, it's so important to communicate that, because you can't expect the other person to just know. And I think sometimes we do, because we've lived with them so long, or we've known them so long. And that's an unfair expectation, I think, to hold of our partners, our spouses, our friends, family members, whoever it is.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if you can share, before we close out, just a few top tips on people that maybe want to have a strategy or a few words of wisdom around maintaining that healthy living or that well-being as we're going through this and as we're processing life that is ever changing.
Like, for me, it's definitely like finding just something around to make you accountable. So I mean, I know that we had discussed, you know, you said you had a PT and I had a coach and everything, and it's lovely to be in that privileged position to be able to pay somebody to tell us to move our butts, like, you know. And I know people laugh at me like, you're a PT and you get a coach, and I'm like, yeah, for accountability. I
Yes.
can tell my clients what to do, but I need accountability as well. You know, we're all human. For me, it's like finding something like, even, you know, like Dr. Ciara Kelly's 100 Days of Walking. And like for February, I did skipping into spring, and it's finding something that you can like link into a community, or link in with a buddy that, I mean, you can still walk with a friend during this particular lockdown. You can still do a socially distant walk within your 5 kilometers. And I actually walk with somebody on a Tuesday and a Wednesday morning, and one of them is at 6 in the morning, at 7 in the morning, and but I would not get out of bed for me at that time, but I know that she is waiting on me. So it's finding, I would suggest to everybody, like, to find an accountability buddy. It doesn't have to be a trainer. It doesn't, you know, your friend will walk with you, or even, you know, if you have somebody who is out of your 5K radius, like, get onto Zoom and, you know, have a chat and a dance or something like that as well. But, you know, sometimes it's easier to be accountable to somebody else than it is to ourselves, you know. And it's what, like, you know, if you're walking 3 times a week, you know, and you're covering, like, say you're doing 30-minute walk 3 times a week, I just walk faster for the 30 minutes. Like, you don't have to change huge things in your life to become a little bit healthier, you know. And I mean, my like, I've friends who are like, how do you drink 3 liters a day? Yeah, this, that, and the other. And I'm like, go to a pelvic floor specialist if you think you're peeing. The amount of people when I was doing skipping into springs are like, why aren't you black? But like, that's another story as well. That's a whole other topic. But it's like, I have a rota for my water drinking. I know that sounds ridiculous, but like, I will drink 500 mils when I get it up, and then another 500 with my breakfast, and then 500 throughout the morning, 500 with lunch, and then 500 throughout the afternoon, and 500 with dinner.
Wow.
And if you break it down like that, like, you're done by 6 o'clock, you know. And it's just, and it's like, I mean, and what, like, sometimes I get out of the regime of drinking water, you know. You can easily be done. But it's like, oh my God, that was really easy today, because you just stuck to your habit, you know. You just stuck to what you did. And as well, like, even just cutting things out of your day, like, you know. And if you're having a bar of chocolate a day, just half the bar of chocolate and have the other half tomorrow, you know, or buy a smaller bar of chocolate.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be changing the world. It doesn't have to be giving everything up, because, you know, it's not about that. It's about getting a little bit healthier, and it's about challenging ourselves as well. And you know, if you're having 5 takeouts a night, get 3.
Yeah, and I love that, because it's so easy to forget that those small changes over time make big results, you know.
But there's there's actually an equation for it or something, you know.
Oh
Isn't
yeah.
it like, if you make a small change for 365, it's like, over the year, if you do nothing, nothing will happen. But you become 37 times better, I think it is. It's max, I don't know, there's an equation, but I think you become 37 times better at
Yes.
something.
I find it's really powerful to see it in a visual as well, because you can see, like, you know, if you don't change, it's just a straight line. Whereas if you become 1% or 2% better, but you're doing it every day throughout the year, all of a sudden that line is like going up and up and up.
It's 37% better. But
Yeah.
that's the one book that I've read over. Actually, I think I listened to it. I love Audible, changed my life. But it's like, I have no time to read. I listen to everything. But it's Atomic Habits by James Clear. Oh my God. It is like the simplest idea, and he has just put it into words. It's so good. It's so understandable. It's so relatable. And he had I think a car crash in his teens, and he was going to be this amazing baseball player, and he just had to go back and think about what is he going to do with his life? And he changed his life completely, and he became this author and this motivational speaker. But it's not like, sometimes I can be very cynical and like, oh, motivational, whatever. But it's just like, wow, okay. And it's all about kind of, laying your clothes out in the morning. And a simple thing like laying your clothes out in the morning, but they're there looking at you going, oh yeah, there you are, like not doing your run or not doing your workout, or but and I think it was like little things like, when you put your shoes on, do it straight away, because you link putting your shoes on to do, and it was just the little things that you can change, that your mind thinks, oh yeah, okay, like that's it. And whereas like for me now, it's not like my water drinking and my walk and my workout and my wind down, like I call it the 4 Ws. They're not goals now. They are habits. They are, they are things that you don't feel bad about missing, because I don't miss them, if you know what I mean. Like I generally don't skip those things. They're part of my routine and everything like that. So you will, like, I really do think that making something a habit, you will get there. You will, it just, like, sometimes things can seem so far away. And I mean, the one thing I would say to people is that, like, even I've like a couple of things that I want to get done by the end of March, say, and it's just picking at it every day, and it's like, last 2 months have probably been the worst 2 months out of the whole year for everybody. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. But yeah, for me anyway, from a mental health perspective, from like, the dark nights and everything like that, and like to see the sunshine today, I can see it in the
Oh,
back there. Oh my God,
yes.
like, it's just, it changes a mood, it lifts the mood. And just thinking, like, till the end of March, like, we're looking at, like, what are we looking at? 42 days, 35, and it's like, do something with those, for 5 minutes a day. And if you think, if you could do something for 5 minutes a day, how good you will get at it. It's not about, my biggest thing is, it's not about changing the world. It's not about, and I think the biggest thing is getting over the fear of that as well. Getting over, that, maybe at the end of the 5 or 6 weeks, you won't be where you thought you were going to be, but you started and you tried. So,
Yes, I love that.
mm.
Just to close everything out, we love to ask people, we're always talking about living life in a way that outlives us. So creating a legacy that you're leaving behind. And so I'm curious to know, what legacy would you like to leave behind through either the work that you're doing, through you as a parent, through you as just a human being, a beautiful individual? What is the legacy that you're hoping to leave?
For me, yeah, I just hope that, um, God, I just hope my kids are happy, and I hope that the craziness in the world has died down by the time that they reach an age that they can understand what's going on, and just really creating a space for everybody to feel comfortable within themselves, and like, just to motivate people as well to jump off that cliff. Like, if you want to make a change in your life, you can make it. You know what I mean? You can, like, for me, like, speaking to you here today, like, I'm recording my first podcast on Wednesday, and it's called Corporate Calm, and it's about making that big step. And so many people have done it, and you know what, maybe somebody has stayed in corporate, but they've changed something about their life work balance, and that's their big leap as well. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a huge corporate or job change, but it's just finding out what has motivated somebody to move and to shift and to change, and to share those stories as well. So just maybe to inspire one person to say, I don't have to stay in this regime, in this life. And I'm recognizing as well, I mean, I've always said this, and I am in this position because of me, but because of my situation as well. Not a lot of us can jump off the cliff without a bit of money behind us either. So it's kind of, I'm not blind to that either, that I did have a financial stability to be able to pursue this journey too. But I think that there's so many people that I've seen that haven't had that financial stability and they've made the change, and I'll be talking to loads of people like that as well. So yeah, if it can inspire just one person to, make a change and just be happy as well, and just, it's not all about, the outside. What it's about on the inside, and that'll come out, so that'll transpire and transfer to the outside then as well.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. And if people want to get in touch with you, if they want to get started with some Pilates, if they want to just learn more, where can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, so I am on Instagram at Pilates with Linda and Facebook at Pilates with Linda, and I'm on LinkedIn at Linda Monahan, but no G, Linda Monahan. My mother-in-law actually said to me, "Don't take the name because you will spend your life saying that." People just automatically put a G in for the county Monahan. And I just launched my website. It's a soft launch actually. I'm just teasing out a few things at the moment, but on my website is pilateswithlinda.ie. So so that's really exciting as well. So you can book classes on there and blogs and newsletters, and yay.
It's amazing. Well done. And thank you so much for joining me. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.